What's up, ADOS and our allies? You know who it is. Hey, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel. Angela Nirvana presents The Way I See It, family. Follow in. How y'all doing? I hope your Wednesday is treating you superbly. I'm so excited to be coming to you yet again with this amazing book, Prejudential. Yeah, to talk about all the presidents from George Washington through Donald Trump and how they've all been racist, right? Joe Biden said that Donald Trump is a racist president. Like they haven't all been. Okay? Many of whom own slaves. We're going to talk about it tonight. Thomas Jefferson, he's first up. And then we're going to go next to James Madison. Okay? So we need to talk about these things, family, because I need to help you understand that the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And this is like the last election cycle, ADOS vote will really matter. And so we have to weaponize it to get tangibles, right? Tangibles and a black agenda in exchange for our vote. Because this lesser of two-step evil shuffle has led us all the way down to the bottom. And I know many of you are afraid of a Trump, second term. I don't really get why. We have been terrorized for over 400 years in this country. It's not new to us. It's new to all the other groups. And aren't we tired of carrying the weight of all the other groups to make them comfortable while they go back to sleep, while their incomes are 10 times what we earn as descendants of African slavery in America, who built all the wealth they all benefit from? When are we going to get tired of that? When are we going to have a revolution? I'm telling you, the revolution is being social mediaized. And the Democrats are looking to replace us with immigrants. Hispanics are already at 52 million in this country to ADOS 35 million. Okay? And everything they're doing on their platforms is to cater to immigrants. Biden wants to give the dreamers, a pathway to citizenship along with their parents and open up the borders for 11 million more to come in. Kamala wants to give H-1B visas to Brahmin Indian caste to come over here and take up more tech jobs. And this is what we're deciding that we're going to continue to do with the Democrats while not insisting on tangibles, reparations, and a black agenda over symbolism. Not the ADOS movement. And that's why everybody's mad and looking to COINTELPRO us, to call us Russian bots, to call us right-wing Trump supporters, to spread a lie that we're discouraging people from the polls. Nothing of the sort. We want our people to show up in Obama-style numbers. I'm voting Green Party, top of the ticket, Democratic down ballot, and others are voting. You'd be surprised. Many blacks are voting for Trump this election cycle to give the middle finger back to the Democratic Party, who decide when we told them no to Kamala Harris, they decide to make Cali's top cop second to the author of the 94 crime bill, whom we also were an enthusiastic no Bernie did win 3 straight states. Biden couldn't even touch it. And then, of course, South Carolina happened, and Obama made the call, and everybody fell back to make way for Biden, who was struggling with dementia. And so the ADOS is not for immigrants being given a pathway to citizenship before we're made whole and American. As I've shared with you on my other shows, white folks share $100 trillion that they stole from ADOS. We made cotton king to the tune of $42 trillion from heinous chattel slave labor, the worst of its kind in the born world. That's our people, ADOS, that did that. And yet we are in the fight of our lives to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Reparations, let me remind you, is not welfare. It's not a handout. It is what we are owed for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. While Kamala tells us she's not doing anything specific for our group, they want us to eat the cost of slavery. And the way they do that is to continue to raise white folks and to continue to raise immigrants and now LGBTQ, anybody but ADOS, to make us whole. And so you're going to hear a lot of rumors and lies about the ADOS because we are putting in work in those social media spaces, and it is posing a serious threat to this election. But it is what it is, because we are here to break the back of the establishment, to break the back of status quo. The comfortable boomers and the comfortable Gen Xers don't want us making this noise. I can go back to sleep and be comfortable. The people that are really leading the charge in this movement are highly educated professionals. Okay? We don't want for a thing, but we don't want our children to want for a thing, you see. We need our children to be made whole, because what we've managed in being lulled to sleep by an affirmative action that only benefited the boomer class is $200 liquid in LA to Kamala's people, Asian India's $245,000 liquid, to ADOS Boston, $8 liquid, to ADOS Miami, $11 liquid. And Kamala tells you she's not doing anything specifically for you. Biden says things will remain status quo. If we wanted Obama 2.0, Hillary would have won. She couldn't win that electorate. She may have won the popular vote, but going after Republicans didn't work for her. Biden is counting on it working for him. And so far, it looks like it's working for him. He's done enough dog whistling in an era of defund the police and Black Lives Matter. He is talking about increasing money to the police in the same way that Obama gave them Blue Lives Matter over Black Lives Matter. Yeah, just look it up, the Blue Alert Law. Okay? It's baked in the law. That's why you got Jacob Blake and all the ones that followed George Floyd 846. We are out of time, family, and it's time to do something very severe to derail these efforts to tether us to the bottom indefinitely. And that's why I bring you Prejudential. I need you to understand your history. And there's not been a president that's been for you. And so we have to weaponize the only thing we have, which is our vote this election cycle. I was in the middle of sharing with you, white folks share 100 trillion to ADOS 700 billion. 90% of us are the blacks in this country. I think it might be fewer than that, maybe 86% to Black immigrants, 14%. I have to revisit those numbers, but just know that they are working very feverishly to not need your vote, hence why they're not offering you anything. They're running after the immigrant vote and the Republican vote, hence the Democratic National Convention, where more Republicans spoke than progressives. So see, we're not the only ones upset with this choice at the top of the ticket in Kamala and Joe Biden. They're not offering tangibles to anyone. They believe our reparations is unseating Trump when we didn't place him into office. So we're not the only ones that's going to be radical and revolutionary in the way we vote. Those progressives are peeved that in a time of COVID, which we are suffering the highest casualties from, that the Democrats aren't even offering Medicare for all. They're hot. You can see Nina Turner any given day talking against the establishment and what they're doing to the people. At least with Bernie Sanders, 16% of us would have been cured of student loan debt. But, you know, this is the way they want it. And the Democrats told us the last election cycle that it's their party, they do with it what they want, and they put into office whom they want. So that's what we're up against. I highly recommend you look at the Green Party. We're in discussions with them about revising the section on reparations to put a gate up for American descendants of chattel slavery. So we're hopeful for those edits to come down, but their platform has something for everyone. It is the most humane platform I've seen across party lines. And I really believe it could be a great direction for the ADOS to start moving over to the Green Party and taking that over and molding it into what we need it to be. Because it is real clear that we need a third party. We can't keep continuing this with the Democrats. We've done it for 55 years to our peril. And with that said, let me get into the reading for today. It is just rich. Okay, if you've read your book, please chat. Paco Ramirez 72, thank you for joining the live. Much appreciated. To all of you who are watching, thank you for joining. And I'm going to try to make this as succinct a show as I possibly can, because I've got to get to the grocery and start slow cooking these smothered turkey wings that my daughter has requested for dinner. It'll be tomorrow's dinner more than likely, but I got to get going, right? All right, family. So I'm going to read, because these are very short chapters, and to tell you the truth, I tried my best to just highlight certain important parts, but the whole chapter ends up getting highlighted because it's that short and it's just that rich. This Margaret Kimberly did her thing on this book. Prejudential. You must pick up your copy. Prejudential. Okay? You must pick up your copy. You must read this with your children to help them understand politics and how they factor into the big scheme of things. Okay? So Thomas Jefferson from 1801 to 1809. Now, I will be throwing in my commentary in between the read. Okay? Jefferson presents a contradiction for the apologists and idol worshippers. For obvious reasons, they admire his erudition and scholarship, but they cannot sugarcoat the fact that he owned more than 600 human beings during his life and had sex with at least one of them when she was a minor child. Yet he also claimed to have misgivings about slavery. Thomas Jefferson was the worst kind of hypocrite on this topic, and one who defined his time because his wealth depended on his ownership of human beings. Jefferson said that he wanted the gradual abolition of slavery, but during his lifetime, he freed only 2 of the people he owned, and only 5 more in his will. This reminds me, this is me speaking, of the people who are now jumping on HR 40. It has no teeth in it. It's been sitting collecting dust for 30 years until the ADOS made reparations a national debate, a national issue on the debate stage throughout the country. So now you see them jumping on board with HR 40 because they realize, as it stands without the ADOS edits, there's no teeth in it. This is the kind of tricks they play in politics all the time. Overpromise and underdeliver. They overpromise for your vote and then underdeliver. Moving on. Okay, Jefferson said that he wanted the gradual abolition of slavery, but during his lifetime, he freed only 2 of the people he owned and only 5 more in his will. It should no longer be acceptable to overlook the profit Jefferson made from involvement in a cruel and barbaric industry. As they tell us no to our reparations, when our ancestors made cotton king to the tune of $42 trillion, they can find all these trillions to bail out the stock market, but they're telling you no to the trillions they owe us for slavery. This is how all these fellas came up. Mitch McConnell, all of them that you see in there, even Barack Obama, descends from slave owners. He is not ADOS. And we found that out when he was no to our reparations. The early presidents established the mandate to expand. May you please send a small Cash App donation. Ronald Bands, thank you for joining the live. To whom? Whom should I send a Cash App donation to? Let me know. I've already sent to Jacob Blake. Last count, they were over 1 million. We're at 1 million. And it's my birthday fundraiser, raising money at the GoFundMe at the behest of Jacob Blake's family. It is my fundraiser because Facebook tells me that, I guess I've been too controversial with my truth over there. So they've banned me from creating my own fundraiser for my birthday. But you mentioned, may you please send a small Cash App donation. I need to know to who. The early presidents established the mandate to expand feverishly westward, relentlessly occupying Indian land and turning it over to the white settler population. Okay, you guys do know that even the Indians owned us as slaves and refused to give the reparations owed to the Cherokee and Seminole Indians, while allowing white people to buy Indian repair for $5. The Seminole and Cherokee Indian Black Seminole and Black Cherokee descendants of Indian slavery are still waiting to be repaired. I'm just trying to get food. Dollar Ron Piguet, I'm so hungry. Ronald, this is not that kind of show. I'm going to have to block you. You're coming on here disrupting my whole flow. I can't do this with you. I'm sure that there are other ways to get your needs met than to come on my live and have me sending money. This is very, very rude. Let me see here. Family, just give me a second. I apologize. I can't have these kind of disruptions. Now, I did this last time somebody was cutting up. How did I do that? Oh. Just a second. I'm so sorry. I can't do this. Please don't let me starve. You seem like a nice person. I'm a very nice person, and you're not starving. If you have access to the internet, you're good. You're fine. Stop it. I'm sorry, family. I'm very new to this, and I'm trying to figure out how I blocked the person last time. Comments. Settings. Oh, God. Forgive me, family. This is just too much. Oh, God. How do I block this person? It should not be this hard. This is a new app. Lord have mercy. I'm having issues. Well, family, I am sorry. I don't want to waste too much more time trying to block this person. I guess I'll just have to leave it alone for now. Um, okay, so Jefferson is credited, if such a positive word can be used, with transacting the Louisiana Purchase. The United States doubled in size in 1803 when France agreed to sell the last of its territories on the North American mainland. The 827,000 square miles of territory west of the Mississippi comprised what are now Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, and portions of Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, New Mexico, Texas, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and of course, Louisiana. The sale was driven by the French need for money after the loss of their extremely profitable plantation economy in the wake of a successful Haitian slave revolt. The ultimate irony is that the end of Haitian slavery increased the amount of territory that would be available to the American plantation economy. The purchase included land still inhabited by indigenous people, most of whom had no idea that France had claimed ownership of their homes or that the United States now possessed them. Jefferson, who ostensibly held the opinion that slavery was evil and unjust, could have forbidden the practice in the newly acquired territories when in March 1804, Congress gave him full executive, judicial, and legislative power over them. He drafted the territorial constitution himself. The original treaty giving the United States jurisdiction asserted that inhabitants of the ceded territory would enjoy the same rights as all American citizens. Jefferson changed the wording to white inhabitants. Jefferson saw this expanse of land in part as a gigantic Indian reservation to which he could forcibly relocate the remaining members of the Eastern Native American tribes. He told William Henry Harrison, a future president and the governor of the Indiana Territory at that time, should any tribe be foolhardy enough to take up the hatchet at any time, the seizing of the whole country of that tribe and driving them across the Mississippi as the only condition of peace would be an example to others and a furtherance of our final consolidation. Had Jefferson wanted to end the evil of slavery, he could have done it with the stroke of a pen. He could have gone the route of the reformist postnatal emancipation plans, whereby persons born on or after a certain date were freed at a certain age. His 1783 draft of a constitution for the state of Virginia contained a provision that would have emancipated those born after December 31st, 1800. The draft language was absent from the final document. Jefferson did nothing of the sort, and in fact, he supported the continuing expansion of slavery. He saw slavery as beneficial to white people, but he tried to hide this belief by advocating the dubious dispersion theory, which held that if slavery were dispersed throughout the country, it would end more quickly on a state-by-state basis. Okay, so those were the contradictions of Thomas Jefferson. Okay, let me jump down so I can move on to the next president. Before the Louisiana Purchase was finalized, Jefferson, James Madison, and George Washington made sure that the nation's capital remained enslaved territory. It is true that Alexander Hamilton made a deal to assume the war debts of the new states in exchange for moving the capital from New York farther south to Philadelphia and then to a newly created city wedged between Maryland and Virginia. But that transaction was hardly the primary motivation. A federal capital carved out of territory taken from existing states could have been located elsewhere. The rationale for creating an entirely new city located on a swamp, no less, enslaved territory was to give slavery legal and physical protection. The choice made little sense unless one acknowledges the importance of slavery to the growth and development of the American economy. Jefferson certainly knew its importance to the settler colonial state and to himself personally. In 1798, his friend Thaddeus Kosciuszko drew up a will asking Jefferson to use his estate to free enslaved people. I beg Mr. Jefferson, quote, I beg Mr. Jefferson that in the case I should die without will or testament, he should buy out of my money so many Negroes and free them, that the restant or remaining sum should be sufficient to give them education and provide for their maintenance. He revised the will 18 years later and made his desires even more clear. I do hereby declare and direct that should I make no other testamentary disposition of my property in the U.S., I hereby authorize my friend Thomas Jefferson to employ the whole thereof in purchasing Negroes from among his own or any others. But Jefferson never used the bequest to do anything that Kosciuszko asked. When he died, enslaved persons were sold to pay off his debts. Despite his pretend angst, he was a slaveholder to the very end. You guys have to understand, we have no friends, especially in government. Okay, thank you, Latasha Gibson. Thank you for joining the live. Dr. Gibson in the house. Triangle ADOS. Love you, black and strong, sis. Okay, so this is the last one. I'll probably get you out a little early today. James Madison. This is even shorter. 1809 to 1817. James Madison's last will and testament states in part, I give and bequeath my ownership in the Negroes and people of color held by me to my dear wife. But it is my desire that none of them should be sold without his or her consent or in case of their misbehavior. Starts out quasi advantageous for ADOS, for the slaves. Except that infant children may be sold with their parent who consents for them to be sold with him or her and who consents to be sold. These words sum up the infuriating degree of Madison's hypocrisy. He often called slavery an evil, and yet he participated in this evil throughout his life. For many years, he claimed that he would free the humans he owned after he died. But his final wishes proved that he had no intention of doing so. His wife, Dolly, was the daughter of a Quaker who had freed enslaved people in 1783. But after her husband died, she sold hers to pay off debts. She did not follow the request in her husband's will that she asked their permission to sell them, as her cousin Edward Cole shared in a letter to his sister. The poor creatures would run to the house and protest against being sold and say their old master had said in his will that they were not to be sold but with their consent. She sold while I was with her a woman and 2 children to her nephew Ambrose Madison, who lives near her. The woman protested against being sold, and the more so as her husband was not sold with her. So you see, family, they were all hypocrites. You got family members calling out other family members for going against the wills of these dead presidents. This is the same way ADOS has been treated since we were freed. They give with one hand and take with the other. Affirmative action was meant to benefit us. It now benefits white women largely, immigrants second to that, LGBTQ next to that. And so all throughout the country, because there's no more affirmative action guaranteeing our employment in the private sector, they can just hire a white woman or an immigrant or an LGBTQ and fulfill that requirement while trying to tether us to the bottom of the ship. As the bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their lives. We are the legs of the table everyone else eats from, you see. And that's why we have to learn politics, and we have to be radical with our politics and not allow the sheeple in the boomer and Gen X class to continue to keep us to sleep. Desperate means call for desperate measures. And today we are at Jacob Blake, 7 shots to the back at point blank range in front of his 3 sons. Because being poor in this country makes you a target. Like Thomas Jefferson, the slaveholding Madison claimed to think that the institution was wrong, but he never stopped profiting from it personally, and he made sure that his heirs did likewise. But they don't want to run us that check in the trillions over multi-generations. Down here, ADOS total assets here in LA, I want to say is around 30,000. To white folks, 355,000. To Kamala's people, 460,000. Asian Indians. All of this to ADOS's 30,000. Even African immigrants, their median income is 115,000. To ADOS is 53.5. And 44% of us are educated. But y'all want to continue this lesser of 2 evils, 2-step dance to our peril, not the ADOS movement. As for Latasha says, as for Thomas Jefferson, he was terrible. He promoted reproducing with slaves to increase profit. Those are the breeding farms, family. Those were the breeding farms. Okay? They bred us when it was no longer legal to import us. This is why I'm doing this book, because you have to understand what you are owed so that you can understand how to weaponize your vote. This in every election cycle henceforth. If the Democrats get their way, this will be the last election cycle your vote even matters, to get them off their behinds to do something for ADOS, given that we've, by and large, been their mules for 55 years, voting blue no matter who, voting lesser to evil no matter what. I'm almost finished, family. Bear with me. In 1789, Madison wrote Memorandum of an African Colony for Freed Slaves. He called enslaved people unhappy, yet assumed that Black people would exhibit vices, whether enslaved or free. Madison also gave credence to the justification of white prejudices against Black people and concluded that the coast of Africa was the best place for what he called a benevolent experiment. So make us build up all the wealth in this country that you profit from, and then you want to ship us away back to Africa as a benevolent experiment. 30 years later, Madison further developed his thinking on the subject and calculated the cost of compensating slaveholders at an estimated $600 million. Yeah, the slaveholders got reparations. You know, the ones who beat us mercilessly, who bred us on breeding farms, who raped us, beat us to death, took our teeth out to make their dentures. Hello, George Washington. Yeah, they're the ones that got a check from the government after we were emancipated. We were told, as we're being told today, to go somewhere and pull yourself up by your bootless straps. And when we did it, to the tune of about 50 Black Wall Streets all over the country, they came through and burned it down. When Abe Lincoln gave us 40 acres and a mule, Johnson came through and took that and then gave us Freedmen's Bureau Bank and then allowed the white folks to pillage all of that. That money is worth in the billions today. But they want to sit up here and bail out Wall Street and bail out corporations for all of their misgivings and the way they've mismanaged funds, and bail out the stock market to make people think that the economy is faring well when 40 million people or more throughout this country have lost employment, and our unemployment rates are through the number on that 40 million. 20% is probably way too conservative an estimate. 45% of our business is gone, never to return, wiped out due to COVID. And we're still being executed by government sanction. We're still being miseducated, underemployed, unemployed, no health care, being redlined into environmentally hazardous communities, being gentrified out of our neighborhoods when they want to take it over and improve it. No loans for businesses, no loans for homes. Black on black crime and black on black murder. As if institutional systemic racism has nothing to do with it. As if we're just doing this for sport. They're doing it because they have nothing to lose and nothing to live for. I'm a homeowner in California, one of the few ADOS with a home down here. I ain't thinking about killing nobody or robbing nobody because I got something to live for. You guys act like you don't understand the correlation between the two. And I am so sick of many ADOS, the lineage, because the movement is putting in work, who are comfortable and self-interested instead of lifting up your brother. Let me tell you something. None of us are free until all of us are free. I heard on one of my YouTube vloggers tell me that what was that? Maybe they were reading from something. Yeah, I think they were reading from a book. I got to go back and figure it out so I can introduce it to the book club. But basically, the Boule, when the cops were murdering people, and one Boule in particular, his son was at a private school, the only black, was pulled over by cops They called him a nigger, and he damn near crumbled. And so, you know, the father went to the police department. This is what a lot of the boule are doing. Letting, you know, the white officers know, not me, sir. Don't shoot me. I'm not one of them. We live amongst you. Giving them their pictures and the names of their families so that they can be protected. Their bullets know no pedigree. Someone mocked LeBron James for talking about the fears amongst the ADOS community by the race soldiers. When they want to execute you, they got the law on their side to do it. Your pedigree matters not to their bullets. LeBron's absolutely right. He understands it could be him or somebody in his family. Look at how big George Floyd was, about the same size of a LeBron. And look at what they did to him. So that's why I say none of us are free until all of us are free, and until all of us get on community upliftment instead of all this selfishness that we've learned from our oppressors. We've got to learn how to move as a block if we're going to get anything accomplished in the way of reparations and the Black agenda. What's up, Sac Black Nation? Thank you for joining the live. Moving on. In 1789, okay, all of Madison, I'm almost done, family. I'll get you out of here. All of Madison's calculations regarding colonization were a sham. Madison and the rest of the slaveholding class were not content to continue owning humans merely for their own comfort and profit. They wanted to expand this business as far as they could. Madison continued the work of his predecessor by grabbing more territory, claiming West Florida as an American territory in 1810 by arguing that it was meant to have been included as a part of the Louisiana Purchase. And even those close to Madison apparently did not trust his pro-manumission rhetoric. Consider the case of Edward Coles. Now, Coles was Dolly Madison's cousin and served as private secretary to President Jefferson and Madison. Like the two presidents, he was a Virginia slaveholder, but unlike them, he had seriously considered giving his enslaved people their freedom. When Coles inherited 12 people after his father's death, he kept silent lest his plans be thwarted. 10 years later, when he informed his family of his plans, they convinced him not to sell his slaves for fear that they would talk and inform other slaves. It took another 10 years for Coles to take decisive action, moving with them to Illinois, where he assisted them in settling on land he had purchased. Coles did not tell the 6 adults and 11 children that they were to be freed until they had left Virginia. Look at how they give each other cover to protect the institution of slavery. Near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, en route to Illinois, he told them they were free. They stared at me and at each other as if doubting the accuracy or reality of what they had heard. Madison was a hand-wringing hypocrite on the subject of enslavement and any possibility of large-scale manumission. He became chairman of the American Colonization Society in 1833 at the age of 82. He spent the last years of his life claiming that he wanted to stop doing what he had done all his life, but his words were hollow, and he and his family continued their participation in the awful and peculiar institution. Family, we are at DEFCON 4. I highly encourage you to help us gridlock government by voting ADOS top of the ticket, Green Party is my preference top of the ticket, and Democratic down ballot. If we can get the Green Party to 5%, family, we can take that party over. And they will be on the ballot in every state. Now, they steal a lot and hide a lot of ballots. I learned when I had Felina Farley, who reps Ohio for the Green Party, on one of my lives, she told me that Jill Stein actually was at around 7% last election cycle, when all this time I was told she was only at 2%. So they're doing everything they can, family, to suppress the vote. Voter suppression is a real thing, but I'm saying if we can get them 10% even, it could be a great start for us as ADOS to start sowing into a third political party without having to reinvent the wheel. Check them out at gp.org, family. We must do something very, very radical here. We are out of time. This will be the last election cycle. Something radical really matters. And let me help you understand once again. If the Democrats get into office at the top of the ticket, that is, we're doomed. We are absolutely doomed. We will be the only ones in pain as business for usual, while the other groups get lulled back to sleep with their riches. And the immigrants, the floodgates will open and the immigrants will take this over. And all they will have for us is a Sinclair woo 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 from in Living, what is it called? Living Single. I'm telling you right now what I know. As California goes, so does the country. Right now, we're fighting for our state reparations, and we're very close to getting our demands on the governor's desk. But even he's trying to change the language to include all Black and brown people. And the ADOS is putting in work. Shout out to ADOS California, putting in work in all our 7 chapters to ensure the gate stays up for ADOS, specifically American descendants of chattel slavery. Dr. Gibson writes, I'm on the board for that, even though I am not for the current candidate for the Green Party. However, I plan on joining the Green Party as an actual member. You have to pay for a membership, but at least you will have more of a seat at the table compared to the Democrats. Absolutely. To Dr. Gibson's point, they have a Black caucus, and they also have a banking reform committee, of which we desperately need. I'm going to do just that, Dr. Gibson. I will be becoming a member of the Green Party and effectuating as much change as I can for the ADOS within that party. It's now or never, people. You may have an income, but our children have no wealth. And COVID, what little wealth we had, has wiped that completely out. And if you think COVID took us out, wait till you see the economic carnage that will be left after COVID is coming gone for ADOS specifically. While the other groups get access to American citizenship over ADOS, who were here long before 1619 as the explorers from Africa. Lots to discuss on this channel. I'm at 48 minutes. So with that said, family, I'm going to get you out a little early so I can get to the grocery store and feed my child. I'd like to put a covering over ADOS. This is some very intense work that we're doing, akin to what Martin Luther King did and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton. Like, this is serious work, family, and I'm a very spiritual woman. And so I put a covering over you for my peace of mind. But if you aren't into prayer and me being in agreement that the divinity in me salutes the divinity in you, I love you. Black and strong. I'll see you on tomorrow's show with our Jamaican ally, Andrea Michelle. We will be chopping it up about ADOS and the immigrants, the Black immigrants in particular, whom I don't believe are doing enough to champion the cause for reparations, while we were their reparations, and now they're outpacing us in our own country that our ancestors built with their lives due to institutional systemic racism. Not our laziness, not our shiftlessness, not our not taking advantage of programs. This is all by design, family. I hope to see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and be sure to read the next 2 presidents if you have Presidential on Friday night show. We'll be doing James Monroe and John Quincy Adams. So get your book Presidential so we can have more of an exchange. Or if you have knowledge on these presidents like Dr. Gibson, please feel free to chat and help to educate our family, our followers, our viewers. Shout out to Malika Shirk. Thank you so much, family, for joining the live. And with that said, family, let me pray us out that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because you are the face of God, you are the voice of God, you are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until tomorrow, family, you go out here in this world and act like you know who you are. Genesis 1:26. Okay, and you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening. Mwah! I love you, Black. I love you, strong. Peace.